Great. I'm glad to see you, everyone. Christian Månsson was actually supposed to be here today, and I'm very glad to replace him. We've actually been writing this talk together, and it's been living in my head I've been living it for the past few days. When he wished me good luck this morning, he told me he dreamt about me giving this talk to you, and so did I. My name is Johanna Månsson Grahn, and I'm a colleague to Christian. The talk is The Gravity of Past Success, How Sweden's IT Wonder in the 90s has crippled our way in the age of AI. I hope it will be insightful. I hope you won't learn too much new things. I think I'm going to speak a lot about things you already know. I hope so, at least. Anyways, a bit about me. I was born in the 80s in Göteborg. That, as you probably can tell, it was in the 90s that I started programming. And it's kind of important for the story. We're starting in the 1990s after all. Anyone here that learned how to program in the 90s? Great. You might be with me on this one then. So before then, my first computer was a Macintosh. You know, one of those teeny ones from the 80s. I used it mostly for playing games like Crystal Quest and Space Invaders. There was a Slime Invaders as well. I loved it. I got it from my grandfather who worked at Chalmers in Göteborg. In the top list of these games, it was old students' names because I didn't clear the computer before I got it. And I loved to try to beat those. Anyways, my next computer was a computer, a PC that my dad brought home suddenly one day. And it was a big surprise. And it was a really nice computer as well. We didn't expect it. And this was the computer that I feel that I grew up with. It was the first computer where I used the internet, for example. So that was great. Yeah, I think that's enough of an introduction, actually. So we'll skip right into it. So Sweden was great in the 90s. Sweden was described as Europe's internet capital by Newsweek. So we were frontline tech-wise. And this was the computer that I got in the 90s from my dad. It was a reform from the government. They sold, or everyone got a nice computer to a low price. And it was huge. A lot of people got those computers. In 1998, just 1 year, 1 million Swedes got a new computer. So that was amazing, actually. Mine was one of them. So what happened more is that this turned out to have a huge learning effect in Sweden. Now that everyone had a computer, it led to that they also learned how to use it, and the internet as well. And a lot of them also later learned to code, to program. So this was really good for the startup wonder that was to come. So good that 20 years later, Sweden is still spoken of as the startup capital of Europe. What do you say to that? The result, it was Spotify, Klarna, Skype, and King, amongst others. There are tons of amazing startups from Sweden. So this is it's a few of them, but yeah, I think you get the picture. At the same time in Sweden, billions are invested in systems that turn into major failures. For example, the Swedish police system, PUST, that had to be scrapped altogether. Before that, it cost hundreds of millions in Swedish kronor. SEB, one of our biggest banks, they went for modern architecture and they spent billions as well on a failure. And we hear a lot about failures in the public sector, but also there are examples of failures in the private sector as well. We just don't hear about them as much. So Stockholm City's school software, this one, school platform, and it became famous internationally for not working. And this one costs more than $1 billion as well. This is another example from healthcare. I could have gone with these ones, but this is the last one that I want to bring up. This is Maud, and she's a social secretary. And in this video, I won't show it because it's in Swedish, obviously. But in this video, she's interviewed and she's telling us a story of, like, at her worst days at work, she just wants to throw out her computer out the window because it's not good enough, it doesn't work. So she's a professional and she has to put up with this. And it's a waste of time, obviously. And I think that we should value the time that we have at hand. You as well, you want to spend your time on something valuable, not something crappy, right? And poor systems, they steal time from the users. And they take away time from what you're supposed to do and what you want to do. So in the public sector, obviously we have other examples as well, like when you go to the doctor, you don't want them to spend time on the medical record system, you want them to diagnose, you want them to speak to you as a patient and work with the treatment, obviously. What happens when children's teacher in school has to use administration's tools that's not adjusted to their needs? Well, there is less time for teaching the children. So how are we great with startups and so bad in the public sector in Sweden? I don't know the answer to this one. I have a few clues. I'm going to share them with you. So, since the 90s, Swedes has perceived themselves as successful in tech, and it's not without reason, obviously. Because of our success, we're expected to accomplish great things. And we have proof that it can be done. We're aiming high, to set high goals. That can be a way of achieving more, right? To try more. But it can also be a road to failure. Why? Past success can also make us hold back and make us avoid risk. Do you want to take risks? Maybe not. Or? To hold back in an environment that's constantly changing, such as ours, it will make us less adaptable. And we need adaptability. and we need it to be able to try out new things. Startups, they're better at taking risks than the public sector. Risk is an opportunity in the startup world. So our success in the 90s did have a few more complications, I think. Anyone here that's happy to work with legacy? One, yes, perfect, I love that. I'm semi-happy to work with legacy, you could say. It's more difficult to expand and modify old systems than to build new ones. Still, we need to do that. There is a lot of legacy systems out there that organizations and individuals are depending on, professionally and not. Also, our task today is different from the tasks that we had in the 90s as developers. What we were good at in the 90s was computerization. We developed ways of working to lay fiber, install computers, digitize forms, you've all done it, right? And also display information online. The problems that we're trying to solve today are different, but we're kind of still using the old ways of working as we did before in a few sectors. And we even try to scale it in the same way, like throw more people on it. For example, and this is supposed to be a simple case, when working with housing and tenants, hyresgäster, in the 90s, we might have digitized a form for filing a failure report or a complaint or something. Today, this task is not so simple. Today, we expect the tenant to be identified as the correct person, to actually create an error report in a simple and easy way. Then we expect customer service to pick it up, and then the problem is escalated to someone on site in the house, maybe goes to check on it. They look into it and make a decision for what to do. They will then contact an entrepreneur that can come and fix it maybe, if it's something that needs to be fixed. And all this, at the same time, the customer needs to be updated on what's happening. Everyone doesn't know that, but a lot of people do. And we don't want them to call customer service, and who is then supposed to call all these different people to see where we're at with it, right? So it's a lot of things that needs to be done digitally at every stage. So the point being, each task that we need to finish today involves multiple systems and even multiple users. So yeah, this is not the same kind of work that we did in the 90s. What do you think? Will AI reduce complexity? Will it make it easier to digitalize? Everyone talks about AI and wants it, and we can also see the benefits. We speak a lot about this. I'm sure here as well at Øredev, you do this every day, maybe not every day. What happens is obviously complexity will increase even more with AI. So our old ways of working isn't going to make it in this age of AI. This is not failures, this is examples of success in the public sector in Sweden. One common factor is that They have avoided big plans and detailed roadmaps. They have started on a small scale with something simple, one target group and one problem, which they released and then iterated on, and they tried it out and made it better. For example, to go, which is from Västtrafik in Göteborg. In Göteborg, it's the public transportation system. A few years ago, they started on an app to let users pay for one-time travel with Swish directly in their phones. So they launched it like that. Nothing more. No planning your trips. No other ticket options. I'm not even sure you could buy a child's ticket or a senior ticket. It was just one thing. And the app fulfilled that purpose. People were maybe, a few people were happy, that target group. The rest, not so happy, because they missed a lot, obviously. But it worked well enough, so people started using it. And then they kept iterating and listening to the target groups and the users. And now, to go is still a good experience. It was from the beginning, it still is. And now we also have the trip planning and the tickets and the different payment options and so on. Yeah, they're still working on it. Like 5 years later at least, I don't know, I'm not sure. So, Jan Gall, not sure about the pronunciation, he suggests that working complex systems always evolves from working simple working systems. So this is a quote from his book, and if there's one slide you should take a picture of, it's maybe this one, or it's just me. It's from his book anyway, Systematics, How Systems Work and Especially How They Fail. So, what works today? I'm going to talk now about things that you already know, hopefully. I know that you are the experts here, as much as I am. But I still need us to be reminded what works. So UX competence and users needs to be involved in the development process from the start. It will create a common knowledge within the team, what needs we aim to achieve, really. UX and users needs to be involved throughout the process, not just in the beginning. We're iterating here, right? We need them all the time. And this is, when we meet the users' needs, the world changes, the environment changes. And this leads to new needs rising for them. This means that we must change the plan. I mentioned this one. Start easy, start with one target group maybe and one problem. I have a favorite line that I like to use. Börja genom att bara börja. Start by just starting, in English maybe. And I use it mostly when I don't know where to start. And exactly where you start, it's not that an important decision. What happens when you pick something small out of it all is it that you're getting the work and the process going, and you're one step closer to actually putting something out there for the users. Typically, you should even start smaller than you would first think. Microservices, I love those as well. They will allow you to encapsulate legacy part of the system. This is how you should work with legacy. It will allow teams to collaborate, different teams, and scale maybe. while still keeping a strong ownership on the code, on their part of the system. It will allow you to buy a few products and build others yourself. It will allow for multiple suppliers, not just multiple teams, which is important as well. Open source can be really beneficial. It could be a way to make you independent of your suppliers, still using them, needing them, but you can change them out. It will give you transparency, but I think this is mostly important in the public sector, where it can be a good way to collaborate with organizations in other regions and municipalities that are actually trying to solve the same problem that you are. We have 290 municipalities in Sweden, and they are responsible for school, amongst other things. Why would they each acquire their own school software, and instead they can collaborate and learn from others? Maybe 290 of them out there doing the same thing. Developer experience, a good work environment lays the foundation for engagement and creativity in a team. You know probably what's best for you here, but a few things I want to stress is like shared coding standards and linting, automated tests can be a hassle to write, but they are really nice when making changes and releasing as well. Continuous integration and deployment. I mean, these things are obvious to you as well as me, but it's not out there everywhere yet. You have to make sure that you are allowed to automate repetitive work as developers and work on your technical depth. The developer experience, the documentation, the habits for collaboration, they should be so good that it's easy to become a part of the team. This will allow for culture and knowledge that has been acquired in a team to persist over time. It would be really nice to have the same team throughout a long period of time, but I actually would say it's just as nice to have new people join in with fresh minds and fresh skills. Going on a conference once a year is great, like Øredev, right? Learning as we work is equally important. So we need a few things for that, like curiosity, maybe, time for it to grow, openness to new ways of working. We need to keep an eye on external factors and trends throughout the year. Keeping the users in the loop is part of this as well, because we learn from them. Experimentation is a part of this, trying things out. And experimentation means failure, and that must be okay to fail. It's crucial for this process. No one likes it. It's shame and guilt in failure, unfortunately. It's horrible. We need to kind of embrace that anyway, to be generous towards ourselves and others, and learn from it in the end. This will make us great. Code reviews and pair programming, you like that as well, as I do. We also need retrospectives, generous and honest feedback to each other about how we collaborate. It was kind of bound to happen, wasn't it, to put Agile up here. The Agile Manifesto was published over 20 years ago, And I'm a fan since then, I think. And it kind of won over waterfall, right? Did it win? Really? I see a few problems. Agile today might not be what it intended to be, because when you go into a new organization, you need to be aware of the way of working. You should be like, you can't feel afraid when people talking about agile development. And you need to be aware of what you spend your time on when someone tells you they do agile development. A lot of times it's just teeny weeny waterfalls with a fancy name. If UX and users is not involved, and if the team is not part of the creative process, it means someone else, maybe less qualified, is making the decisions. And a big part of solving today's problems is collaboration. And teamwork, it's more than big planning meetings and breaking down tasks in Jira. A team should be bigger than its parts. And a working cross-functional team can make really good decisions. And they can get shit done, right? All right, the summary of these points that you already know. Involve the user, start small, microservices, open source if it suits you, developer experience, the teams, continuous learning and agile teamwork. This is part of the solution. I think we're at the crossroads right now. Either we deal with the problems that we have and find a functional way of working forward, or we'll have to accept more failures and also a higher cost with them. And if we succeed, according to DIG, the Agency for Digital Government, this can be worth like 140 billion annually. Imagine what we could do if we could use that on teachers and police and healthcare and stuff like that. So so what can we do with AI in the public sector? What is it that DIG is aiming for, really? This is not from DIG, but a few examples could be like personalized learning in school. In healthcare, it could be diagnostics assistance. AI is better at analyzing images than humans. So that could be of great assistance. It could also help with forecasting, like patients, flows, allocation of resources, and reducing wait time for operations and stuff like that. Fraud as well. AI can analyze patterns, detect anomalies in financial transactions. And overall, chatbots, they can actually provide with instant responses to common questions at least. They can increase satisfaction if used right. And one thing that DIG pointed out as saving, just saving on this one, like 40 millions or something, it is that AI can help with understanding complex data and also identify trends, which can help with creating more effective policy decisions, because this is also important. We have to follow up with those as well. And there is more. as you know, to this. So, the real takeaways, not this summary I had just previously, is like from me to you that you are all professionals. You know how to do this, I think. I want you to put it to use, if you're not already. And that's it. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.